All right, y'all, before we start, because some of y'all be tripping, under the advice of counsel, I got to add that the views, thoughts, opinions that are expressed on this podcast are mine and mine alone. They do not represent my employer. All right, let's go.
Because I was like, damn, do we really want to get into this discussion? Because if we get into this discussion right here, y'all.
All right, so I just want to make sure that we know that we have your parents' permission on audio, a video, and a written note that I have permission to speak with you because, you know, I am a licensed teacher in the state of Texas, and we have really crazy rules about communicating on social media, internet communication. So, and make sure that we know we got mom's permission to have this conversation with you. And so let's talk. So tell me what you want me to call you so I can make sure that I'm addressing you by your right name throughout the meeting.
You can call me Tyler, and what shall I call you?
You can call me R4F. That's fine.
All right. So
all right. So you can just call me Rich Mom for it's fine. It's
no problem.
or like my students say, Miss.
All right, Miss.
That's fine. So first, let's talk. You are a student at James Madison High School in Houston, Texas, here in HISD, and you are a junior. Did you tell me you were a junior?
I'm a senior.
You are a senior at Madison High School. Okay. Where did you go your freshman year? You said you've only been here 3 years?
Yes, I went to Columbia High School in Lake City, Florida for my freshman year. But after COVID and everything, I ended up moving here. And, you know, I ended up, you know, in a school where at first, you know, it was all doom and gloom and everything. And it's gotten a little better for me personally, you know, making friends and everything. But there are way too many issues right now with administration, HISD, and everything. And we'll be talking about that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the reason we're here, because we've been seeing it all over the media, is this whole walkout protest you guys are doing. Now, the media is spinning it to make it seem like you guys are just protesting them banning cell phones or them restricting your use of cell phones, but we're finding out through many posts and conversations that it's deeper than that. So in your words, go ahead and describe for us, like, what prompted this whole walkout protesting?
Well, yes, what prompted it was initially the news that they were going to start taking away phones as a result of fights that happened on, I believe, the 1st of February, on that Thursday. Yes, the 1st of February. And so that Friday, we saw a walkout happen. That was the initial walkout that was, in fact, reported on by the news media. Mm-hmm. It wasn't very coordinated, I'll say, as someone who was in the middle of it. I myself did not walk out. I made sure I watched from a distance because I wanted to see where this was going to go.
Okay. Because
whether or not there were going to be 2 people walking out or maybe 8 or 10, there were a lot more than that. I'd say around like 30-ish people, but since I didn't walk out, I can't really say for certain, but yeah, there were a decent amount of people that did walk out. And I was encouraged by some of my teachers to start actually collecting interviews because I myself am an aspiring sports broadcast journalist.
Okay.
Me personally, I've been accepted by the Missouri School of Journalism and other colleges. So
that is beautiful.
Someone that, thank you. I'm someone that really lives for things like this. Okay. So, but back on topic though, I noticed that and everything, but it wasn't until Monday or Tuesday where I was made aware of the faculty meeting that happened between the admins and the teachers as a result of the walkout. And so after I found out what happened, I was like, I need to interview some teachers and now this is the part where I need to tell people about this.
Right.
Because what's being spun in the media is not reality with what's happening with the teachers. And I believe that the teachers are being mistreated by HISD themselves. And it's sad to see it because no one is banging the door to be a chemistry teacher or an English teacher right now. Nobody is.
Right.
And it doesn't help when you're berating your teachers or telling them that it's your fault that the students walked out, because it's not. This has nothing to do with the teachers themselves. This has to do with administration at the very top. So.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that, because we all saw over the summer when the new superintendent was chosen by the Board of Managers, which has now taken over as the Board of Trustees for HISD. And so things just completely changed. So tell me, what changes you noticed since the new takeover of the superintendent and the whole NES school system, from when you first started at Madison High School until now? What changes have you guys seen?
Floyd Mike Miles. That's all I have to say. Good old Floyd. F Mike Miles is what they say. So where do I even start? The biggest thing for me was the cones. At James Madison High School, in order to use the restroom, you have to take a giant traffic cone with you.
Like on car rider, like the car rider line traffic cones?
Those kind of cones, like cones this big.
Yeah.
And you have to carry it around and put it outside of the restroom to show that you're using the restroom. Sometimes the teachers have written their names on it and everything. And downstairs, I believe, is orange cones. Upstairs is blue cones. So then
if you're downstairs.
Yeah, so they know if you're upstairs with an orange cone, they'd be like, oh, hey, here's the deal. That's stupid. But you know what's even stupider? The fact that we have to wait 45 minutes after class starts to even use the restroom.
Are y'all on block scheduling? How does that work?
We are on block scheduling. We have A day and B days. But I still think it's absolutely ridiculous. We usually have to wait the first 45 minutes of class to use the restroom. I'm in a situation where it's the first 20.
Right.
I need to use the restroom, but everyone else had the same idea, thinking I'll go just during transition. But when you have everyone in the school having the exact same idea, how is that going to end up? Because when that 60-second mark comes, they start to clear the restrooms out, clear it out. And so I'm left in a bind where I'm holding it I'm having to hold it for 45 minutes. And no, that's just stupid.
That makes sense. So tell me, why do you, in your own words, tell me, why do you think that they are trying to restrict the use of you guys' cell phones there? We hear or heard that they said something about you guys fighting, right? And we're going to talk about that too. Yeah. But in your words, why do you feel like they're trying to restrict your use of your cell phones?
For me, I think it's just attempting to implement something that the superintendent has been wanting to do since the beginning. And they just needed to find their justification to do it. And the fights that happened on Thursday that resulted in a lockdown was their justification. This is really just they're finding an excuse essentially to do this. This is a big excuse that they're trying to make. And then as a result of that, they decided, hey, we're just going to do this on Friday. We're going to make an 11th hour decision and just start to collect phones starting Monday. Now, this didn't go over well with anybody. On top of that, there was almost no transparency from what I've heard with such policy being enacted. And I believe that this policy being enacted is not only hurting the students, but the look of HISD in general, really. Because what if, hey, grandma is dying or a car accident or a car wreck happens. I myself, in my freshman year, I had to call my mother because I had a panic attack my second week at Madison. A giant panic attack. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I need to call my mother. Well, imagine if that happens to someone and they just don't have their phone. Well, you know what Mike Miles is essentially saying right now? Tough luck, kid. That's what I believe, like, tough luck. If you have something going on, that's not their business. So That's how I feel about it. It's not a good policy, and the way that it was enacted by administration has been absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm. So, as an educator, you would have people saying, phones are a distraction. You have a lot of adults on social media. We're reading the comment sections of these videos where they're like, you know what, that's good for them. They're addicted to their phones. They are distracted by their phones in the classroom. The teachers are trying to teach and they're on their phones. If there's an emergency, their parent can contact the front office. If they have an emergency, they can go to the office and contact their parents. What is the rule for phone usage at your campus? Do you guys have specific reasons? Like, could you walk into the front office right now and say, hey, I'm having a panic attack, or I'm in distress, I need to call my mom? How would that look? What would that look like?
Well, for me, I haven't experienced it personally, and I cannot answer that question.
Okay.
But what I can say, though, is the fact of the matter is that I get what they're saying, and I have played devil's advocate, and I've thought about it. And I've said, look, yes, phones are a distraction for the classroom, but no, you should not take them away upon entry to the building.
Okay.
Because I refuse to believe that we should punish kids like myself who have done nothing, who have not gotten into a fight, who've not done these delinquent things, and bring a punishment onto everybody. And just punish everyone. I don't believe you should take away the phone of an A+ student who goes to class every day, who comes to school ready to learn, as the same way as someone who doesn't come to school at all, who frequently gets written up, frequently gets in trouble, and everything. You cannot put those two kinds of people together. You can't classify them all in just one. You just can't do that. And that's what they're doing right now.
And I've noticed that as well. Now, I'm a graduate of Willow Ridge High School, which is probably about 10 minutes from Madison High School. I grew up in Hiram Clark. Basically, my grandmother lived over there. And so I was over there every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, went to church in Hiram Clark, all my childhood. So I'm very familiar with the area, and I've seen the change in the area over the years, right? And so when you see only negative in the media, right? People assume that, hey, this is what they are all like. When you go to the TEA's website and you look at the testing data that you guys have produced, and you look at the discipline reports, and you look at all of these things, people automatically lump everybody into this one big group and say, hey, they're all rated D students. They're all failing the EOC. You have seniors that are still trying to pass EOC English 1, and they're all like that. And so listening to you say, hey, no, I'm going to college. I've already been accepted into college. I'm going on ABCD. It really needs to bring to light that, hey, there are some of us that are going to school to do what we're supposed to do, and we're not supposed to be lumped in. So I totally understand and agree with that. Yeah. Now, let's talk about, because you said you spoke to some teachers, and that's one of the biggest things going on right now. Everybody's like, there's got to be a teacher working behind the scenes, helping these kids. And without, we want to make sure that we protect them always. Let's answer that question. Do you guys, or do you feel comfortable answering that question? Do you guys have help behind the scenes?
Absolutely. 100%. With the anonymous teachers that I've spoke to, they're 100% on our side. And there are things that I'm able to say that I wouldn't be able to say without teachers. All of the documentation I've collected in order to give it to the news media, in order to shed light on these things, I wouldn't even know about this without a teacher. I wouldn't be talking to you without the words of the teacher. So absolutely, they are 100% on our side.
That's awesome. So now let's talk about how some of these rules impact the teachers. I don't know if you saw this morning or yesterday on Twitter, there was a teacher at Waltrip High School that was walked out of his classroom because he posted 3 of his write-ups that he's been getting. And the teachers are getting write-ups for every little thing. And write-ups, I don't know if you're familiar with how they work for a teacher when they go in our files, right? And so this teacher was written up for 3 different things. One was, I think he took off work to go to his father's funeral. The next thing was because a student was using their cell phone in his classroom. And then the last thing was he didn't have like his objective on the board or something like that. I don't know if you guys, we have that in my school. You know,
we do.
You have the date and the this and the that on the board. And so the teacher didn't have those things on the board. And so he was written up for those things. And so I guess tired of being bullied as a teacher, he posted them in the classroom for everybody to see, like, hey, students, these are the things that I'm getting blamed for. Here, this is the pressure that I'm under as your teacher. And so because of that, they walked him out. So what do you know, talking to some of the teachers behind the scenes, about what kind of pressure they're under this whole new change?
I have a teacher every day making sure that we don't take phones out and everything, to make sure that they're not written up, because they've told us that, yes, we do in fact get written up if an AP comes in and sees it. And I think it's disgusting, frankly. There are some teachers that are actually doing things worthy of a write-up that they aren't writing those teachers up for. And to write a teacher up for simply not having the objective on the board, that's disgusting to me. Despicable. And I believe whoever made that write-up is a despicable person as well.
So now, knowing things like this, let's go back to the good and the bad, right? So you have students that are in class doing what they're supposed to do. You really care about your teachers. You want the best for your teachers. You don't want them to be in trouble. What kind of conversations are you having with your peers that are not doing the correct things, or that are not keeping their teachers in mind when they're pulling out their cell phones and things like that? What does that conversation look like in the classroom?
Well, that conversation with those students, it's kind of like, it's a sort of thing where they're just talking about their rights, and at times it's kind of, when I hear them just talk about, hey, I have the right to have my phone out and everything, not all the time. When a teacher is teaching, you really do need to be paying attention, but at the same time, you can't just not have your phone. I think that's dangerous to not have your phone. And on top of that, let me tell you something. Last year at Madison, we had a school shooting threat. And we had, I believe it was a lockdown. And you want to know how we found out? Our phones and the media reported on it. There was no announcement made. We weren't told there was any sort of threat or anything. These were extensive threats made. They actually, I believe they outlined a plan to shoot up the school and everything. But we were told because someone in the class said, hey, look, we're on the news. And then I had to check my phone and I was like, we are on the news. What gives? Why weren't we told any of this is happening? It's our safety. So I believe our phones can also be utilized as a tool for transparency, So when you guys went on that lockdown, were you guys under the assumption that it was another drill? Lockdown? Are you referring to the Thursday lockdown or the lockdown I was talking about in my story?
The lockdown that you're speaking of just now?
No, we weren't. We weren't even told that there was a lockdown.
Oh, it was nothing. So you guys were just going on. It was a regular day in math class.
It was the end of the day too. I was thinking about, oh man, I gotta go to work later. This was when I worked at Chili's, for the record. I love my current job. I love everyone here. But I was like, man, I gotta go to Chili's and everything. And I was just, the day was winding down and all, until that happened. And it just kind of, then they made the announcement like later on, but everyone knew by then. And I was like, huh? What?
Wow. So let's talk about some of the things, let's talk about some of the disparities between your school and other schools in the district. So you're familiar with other high schools, Carnegie Vanguard, Bel Air, Lamar, all of those schools, right?
Yeah,
right, so,
semi.
Okay. So do you believe that there's a difference in the programs and activities that you guys are given at Madison versus the programs and activities they're given there? Let me give you an example. For one, y'all's libraries are not librarying anymore, correct?
They're not librarying at all.
At all.
Prisoning.
So tell me, let me backtrack, because I should have asked you that
No problem.
initially, because that was probably one of the main things when Mike Miles came in, just changing everything up. Those high schools, those NES schools rather, your libraries were turned into learning centers, but which we know that those are detention centers or behavior centers.
They are.
So let's talk to us about that. Like, what do those look like? Talk about the library.
They just skimmed the library and just put a bunch of desks in it. There's not much. They essentially just took all the books. Mm-hmm. There's like a what do you call it? A U shape of books to make it seem like, yes, there are still books in the library, but no, they're not. They're there for show. There are desks lined up, and there's a board and everything in there for whatever, God knows what. I'm glad I haven't been in a team center, so I can't say for certain, but I don't plan on being in a team center anytime soon.
Okay, that's good. All right, so now let's talk about, back to the question I asked you about the difference in the schools. So tell me some of the things that you think you guys are not being offered at Madison that other schools are having the luxury of having, as far as activities, as far as the curriculum is concerned.
Well, like I said, I can't speak for the other schools, but I will say this. I'm sure that those schools have basic human decency, because I today took a photo of the restroom. There's a men's room at James Madison High School with no soap dispenser.
Oh, wow.
The soap dispenser, I can show you the photo. The soap dispenser is literally gone. And this is not the first time, probably nor the last time, where I'll see a lack of a soap dispenser. And that bothers me. It just does, because you need to have basic, facilities for the students and everything. But if they can't even do that, here's the photo right here. So if you can see it, that's where the dispenser.
Oh, wow. It's completely off the wall.
Yeah, it's supposed to be there, but it's, you can wash your hands with a nail, I suppose.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So tell me, when this happened and any other concerns that you guys had prior to the walkout, have you guys had an opportunity or attempted to express your concerns to your campus principal or your assistant principals?
Not at all. Before this walkout happened, there have been no opportunities for inquiry or anything when it comes to communication with students or administration. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I haven't really seen, just any collaboration between students and administration. And I think that's what makes a culture. I interviewed an anonymous teacher, and she believes the root cause of all of our problems here at Madison is the fact that we've gone through 4 principals in 5 years. The average the average term of a principal, I'm already speaking like it's Lord of the Flies.
Right.
The average term of a principal at a school is around 6 to 10 years. I have never gone through a principal that's lasted 2 years at James Madison High School.
Wow.
Not even 2 years. I believe 13 months at the most.
Wow. Because you guys have had a change in principals, once or twice this year already?
This is our second principal this year, yes.
This school year, and it's February. Wow, that's crazy. So you yourself tried to, made an attempt to talk to Mr. Contreras, is that his name?
Mr. Contreras.
Have you tried to talk to him or email him or any of your grade level APs?
The only thing that I've spoke to Mr. Contreras about was initially when I heard about the cell phone policy. I gave him an extensive email citing the 4th Amendment of the Constitution, unreasonable search and seizure. I included that passage, the exact passage in the Constitution, and I even warned him, you may be facing a constitutional lawyer if you do not amend this rule. Because yes, if you're actively taking other students' property, yes, that is illegal. Absolutely, it is.
So let's go back to the oh, I had a brain fart. Sorry. Let's go back to when you guys first the faculty meeting that you guys had, or that the principal had.
Yeah.
And so you have this lady, Miss Doria. Am I saying her name correctly?
Yes.
And I've seen you guys put some crazy things about her in your slideshow that you guys created, which was beautiful, by the way. That slideshow was perfect with your documentation and transcripts. That was beautiful work. So kudos to you guys for doing that. But listening to Ms. Doria on the PA system in the way that she spoke to you guys, and then listening to is it Ms. De La Guardia?
Yes.
De La Guardia, who was, I guess, the area superintendent,
yes.
Listening to how she spoke to the teachers in that faculty meeting. And then we get an email shortly after that faculty meeting from your principal, basically telling the teachers, hey, this is the rules, this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, hit the door, find you another place to work. Because
I viewed that transcript from Principal Contreras. I have from an anonymous teacher. I received a paper copy of it. I won't be showing it for privacy reasons, but I do know I've read over the document. Bogus, completely bogus. There are multiple times where cheap shots are made towards the teachers. There are times where there are unreasonable rules. There are constant contradictions. That's all. That document. If you look up contradiction on Wikipedia, that document will probably be on. I'm serious. There's so many of them.
So how did that make you guys feel as students listening to administrators in these high level positions speak to your teachers in that way?
I was disgusted when I heard the way Ms. De La Guardia spoke to the teachers. Felt like a dressing down. And one of the teachers that I interviewed, I believe she's quoted as saying, it was like as if she was a mom going off on her child. Like when you press her buttons, it's long enough. Yes, you could probably relate to that. If you press her buttons long enough, she just goes off on you for the next 30 minutes. So that was essentially what I got from a teacher. It sounded like just a hissy fit. Like she was going off on a bunch of children. And don't quote me on this, but I did hear from an anonymous teacher when I was speaking to her about it that some teachers were left in tears after that.
Wow.
And hearing that pissed me off because that's no way to treat a teacher, an employee, or a human being.
Right.
So after I heard that, I was just like, people need to know about this, and I need to bring this to light.
So do you guys feel, or has it crossed you guys' mind that Mr. Contreras and your former principal these are things that they're being told to do, that they're themselves are being bullied by Mike Miles, Ms. De La Guardia, Ms. Doria, the people that are in positions above them? Do you feel like your principal is maybe not the bad guy, that he's just being told what to do by the people that sign his check, essentially?
Wholeheartedly. And I have all of this is just theories, but with what's going on, it's awful, because I believe Mr. Contreras is not fully in control. When you hear Ms. Doria on the PA system more than him, that's just a recipe for failure. That's a recipe for disaster.
Wow.
And his credibility right now is zero because of that. I believe Mr. Contreras has no credibility to the students. Zero. And even when he was meeting with students, I wanted to bring that up to you. He met with students after the walkouts to actually get to reason with them. And you want to know the only thing that he did? Every time he was prompted or inquired by a student, this is why I believe he's not fully in control. Let me show you. The only thing he did was this. All he did was write down the chain of command of HISD.
Oh, wow. Wow. Is that to tell you guys take your
That tells them,
complaints
that says a
elsewhere?
lot. That says a lot about
Wow.
where Contreras is.
So let's talk about this. So after we saw the big walkout that occurred yesterday. So we saw the first one, right? And then you guys staged another one yesterday that was even larger, that went viral on social media. It was huge. It was crazy. And you guys planned that together. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was planned on social media. I have not participated, for the record, in any walkouts or protests.
Okay.
And why that is because I'm fighting my battle behind the scenes.
Okay. And I love what you're doing, and this is still doing the work. So now when you guys had that, there was another email that went out, or another notice to you guys as students saying, hey, these are the new rules for protesting. If you guys are going to protest, it has to be done before school, after school, it has to be done across the street. There was this big long memo that went out with basically when and how you could protest, which is that's different. And then after that came out, we get news on various news outlets that says, hey, the superintendent is possibly threatening you guys with suspension if you protest. So we call it Chapter 37, student removal, threatening you guys with suspension. And then today it was, hey, you guys had this big Valentine's Day dance that was scheduled, and now that's canceled. It
is now canceled.
So let's talk about, I know we only got a few minutes left, but let's talk about some of that stuff.
And we can probably split this in another part if possible. So
okay.
All right. So I mean, it's crazy how they're attempting to really remedy the situation. Mm-hmm. Make it seem like, oh, it's not too big of a deal, and they're making it worse for themselves. I don't know what they think suspending the students for protesting is going to do. If you were to ask me, if I was superintendent, first of all, I wouldn't let it get to this point. No. Second of all, if I was Mike Miles, God forbid, that's one person I don't want to be. But if I were in his shoes right now, I would ensure that those students have excused absences because they're expressing their First Amendment right. And if expressing your First Amendment right is a crime, then it's time to call a lawyer and file a class action against the Houston Independent School District. I am in no way, by the way, for the record, I am in no way condoning nor asking for anyone to do that. But I'm just saying that is in the cards if things were to escalate even more. That's what I'm saying here. Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys get word today that the dance was going to be canceled as a result of student protesting?
Honestly, for me, I found out via social media posts, and I was and as me as a journalist, I have to make sure things are correct because I saw the other day one of my friends posted on social media, y'all ain't telling me the principal got fired. He did not get fired. Mr. Contreras is still, as of 2/9/2024, the principal of James Madison High School. Mm-hmm. But I had to look at different sources, and I did ask people around, and I did see a screenshot of Houston Independent School District's pay being, refunded towards the students. So that's how I knew, yes. And then after that, the morning announcements came on. I really wish I recorded it, but the announcements came on, and then they said the dance is now canceled. So yes, it is 100% confirmed to be canceled.
Do you think that was the result of the protests, or was it maybe some safety measures they were trying to put into place?
It was 1,000% because of the protest. Mm-hmm. Like the timing is just it's too convenient to be a coincidence. Way too. So take it however you will.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So talk about from the first year or two at Madison High School versus now. Let's talk about how the environment, how the mood, the atmosphere has changed. What does the culture look like now versus what it looked like a couple of years ago?
The culture, I believe, has always been bad, no matter who's the principal there. But we have reached the pinnacle point now where the culture, it doesn't exist. Everything, is trying to be covered up by HISD. And I believe that there is corruption within Houston Independent School District.
In what ways?
In what ways? I'd say because of the puppeting. It's just the constant puppeting with these APs and principals and everything. It's clear to me that Edgar Contreras is not in control of his school, or he's not in control of his job at all either. It's the higher ups. That's what no one's talking about. The higher ups.
Okay. So what do you envision being a resolution to the situation? How could this whole thing be resolved in a manner that would still allow you guys to follow the rules, respecting the rule of no cell phone usage in class, and still feeling like you're being treated like an adult? 'Cause you guys are adults, almost.
I turned 18 in 4 months.
Okay.
3, I think. Well,
okay.
That's not the point though. But yeah, as for resolution, I can't say for certain, but what I can say is we need to completely scratch this policy of taking up the phones at the beginning. And if you really, really wanted to get control of your school, I think Miss Doria and Miss De La Guardia need to back off of Contreras and let him make decisions and let him speak with the students. The students need to be in cahoots. The parents especially need to be involved, and the administration needs to work with everyone. That's what I believe needs to happen. I think the district has gotten now to a point where it feels like Miss Doria is our principal right now. And that should not be the case. I see her in the hallways more than Contreras now. I saw Contreras once today, Miss Doria like 2-3 times. And I have never spoken to her, but from everything that I've seen, I believe that she is not doing a very good job at her job. And from what I've heard from a anonymous teacher, everyone involved is coming from the elementary level. So they don't really know how high school works, essentially. So that's what I'm getting from this.
So you mentioned parental involvement. Let's talk about what parental involvement looks like at Madison High School. How involved are parents now that everything has exploded into what it is versus their involvement prior to this situation?
Well, I would say, yeah, the parents are a lot more involved, but the admins and the school itself is not giving parents an opportunity. Yes, there are parent meetings, but at a parent meeting yesterday, it was last minute. It was very rushed, and I'd say, and I have screenshots from parents' concerns. After a while, Contreras turned off the chat.
Oh, wow.
The chat was turned off. But I do have screenshots, and I will provide that. But I do see we have less than a minute here. Okay. So would you mind if we move to another session and then
Absolutely.
talk about it? All right. Thank you.
All right.